Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and I'm going to do another video about good mornings. I know you guys get sick of these. And as another lifter was telling, actually two lifters I know on my wall a while back were actually saying, Jason would probably make love to the good morning if he could. It's probably not far off the mark. So, yes, I love good mornings. And you guys know that I program box squats. I use a lot of box squatting. Most of my clients do mostly box squatting. Some of my clients do exclusively box squatting. And that's funny. People will say, well, why would a client only box squat and never back squat? What sort of client would you give that to? Someone who has no interest of ever competing in powerlifting, strength lifting, or Olympic lifting. Okay. I would rather them just box squat. In other words, a fighter. All right. Fighter, someone in the military, a golfer. Fighters, I mean MMA, boxing, BJJ, so on and so forth. Just have them box squat. They don't have to back squat. Not necessary. And again, in any sport to where they're concerned with rate of force production, box squat is a better overall tool. I'm not saying we shouldn't back squat at all or it has no benefits, but the box squat is a better tool for that purpose. It really is. So we use a lot of box squatting, but I also pair the good morning with it. And these are two things that every one of my lifters will tell you if any of them decide to comment in the comments, and they do frequently. They do frequently. And enough of them are semi-public. They'll all tell you the same thing. I make them do a lot of box squats and a lot of good mornings. And there's a strong synergy between the two. The thing to think about first of all is I've explained before that the good morning is a squat with less knee bend, right? We have a less flexion of the knee. Everything else is identical. It's the exact same hip movement, similar loading to a squat. But one of the things that the good morning teaches you is how to sit back. In other words, it teaches you how to hip hinge. And a lot of people are unaware that a true power squat, which would include a box squat, is also a hip hinge, right? It's a more hip dominant movement than people seem to realize. We're not saying the quads aren't a primary mover because you can't remove the quads. You know, anyone who says, oh, this doesn't work the quads, and it's a movement that bends the knee from a full lock position down to 90 degrees and then back up, or even deeper. Okay, there is no way it is humanly imaginable that you could remove the quads as a primary mover from that. It cannot be done. Your quads are going to be worked heavily in that situation no matter what. Okay, that's a given. But power squatting does use a lot more hip extension. And we learn to push our hips back. And it replicates a hip hinge, just with a lot more knee bend. And a good morning is basically a hip hinge, a loaded hip hinge with the bar on top of your back. The good morning teaches you how to hip hinge. Right? If you perform a good morning correctly, you don't roll over at the back. Right? If you push your hips back, and the knees travel a little bit and the hip is the only joint really moving, right? Because you don't round your back, right? You keep your back in extension. So there's actually, other than certain variations of the good morning, we're not flexing or extending our back itself dynamically. It's just there stabilizing, right? The hips are doing all the moving. And if you learn to do that correctly, what happens? Watch your good morning from the side, or watch some of my lifters do good mornings from the side. Antonio's vlogs and other people, he put them up. I've linked videos of some of my really strong guys doing side shots of their good mornings. What happens? They push their hips back and their shins stay completely upright, right? There's no forward travel of the knee while the hips, glutes, and everything else go backwards. Well, what is it that we're trying to achieve on a box squat? We're trying to achieve no forward travel to the knee, right? New box squatting, our goal for a novice box squatter, someone who's new to box squatting, is to where they can reach the box, a box that's parallel or deeper, with their shins upright, completely 90 degrees from the floor. You guys notice I go further back than that. I actually go backwards. So instead of the knee traveling forward, my knee actually travels back. I have seen really strong guys who can do it way better than me with even more weight. Okay, so I'm not special in that regard. I'm using it as an example because that's what I do. But I personally know guys, like my bro Clint Darden, he gets way back. His knee is probably 2 inches behind his heel when he's on a box. And the man has done this with 600, 700 pounds. Okay. So he clowns me even on this. But I get mine all the way back. So our goal though is for someone who's new to box squatting is to keep their shin, their lower leg, 90 degrees from the floor, and for the knee to not travel forward 1 inch as they sit back onto the box. But if you look at what happens in a good morning, as you're moving back in a good morning, as you start a good morning, it puts you into the same position that you sit back into as you're doing a box squat. In other words, it will train you to perform the box squat correctly, or at least the first part of the eccentric rep, right? Because we push our hips back. We break at the knee, but you're also breaking at the knee on a good morning. If you watch me doing these, there's a soft bend in the knee. It's always there. So we're breaking at the knee also. And that's what we do on a squat. We push the hips back and then we break at the knee at the same time. But the hips should be going back. At least if you want to squat the most weight possible. You want to get the most muscles involved. You need your hips to come back. And the box squat teaches us how to power squat. Right? It's a training tool that teaches you how to power squat so that you can power squat without having to learn it. Once you learn to box squat, it becomes automatic. You just pull the box out and power squat. Same movement. But if we're trying to just master the box squat for the purposes of building muscle, building compensatory acceleration, rate of force production, we don't necessarily worry about that part, but we are worried about learning to use the box correctly. And that includes that ability to sit back. That ability to sit back. Not only does it help with posterior chain and developing force production, it's actually the easiest on your knees. Okay, and that matters a lot, especially athletes who have to do things that are hard on their knees. They have to jump, they have to sprint. Or as you're starting to get older, guys complain about their knees hurting. Well, box squats will generally remedy that. But the good morning teaches you how to get into the start position to push back, push your hips back, sit way back on the box. And what else do we have to do when we push the hips back? We have to learn how to lean forward. Why? We have to keep the bar midfoot. And the further your hips go back, the more your torso has to lean forward in order to maintain a proper center of gravity. So all of these mechanics that we need to make this box squat work perfectly, we can learn them while doing the good morning. Okay, it will teach you how to box squat better. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.